Anyway, they got runs in, the Braves, 2 games in a row, hit by pitch with bases loaded.
I'm sorry, Doc.
It's really...
Okay, so we're in we're in the middle of the long paragraph on page 57.
Did you not record yesterday?
We didn't have a shiur yesterday. We were supposed to do a review, but I was alone in the base medrash.
Oh.
How are you feeling?
Better,
you feeling better
today, yeah.
Rabbi, I'm so sorry about that. I didn't go down.
What you? Okay, no, I was fine actually. I was sitting and learning Samach Vav and having a really good time, and it was quiet. You're feeling better, okay?
Yeah,
So I asked your wife if you were going to work last Tuesday night. She said no.
No, I didn't.
So then I told her to tell you. I hope she did. If she didn't, so okay, it's all right.
She did.
That there would not be class anyway. That we're doing review.
Told me.
Okay. Eishes Chayil, see that? Okay, so the Rebbe is explaining the unit of Machras HaShabbos. And what's Machras HaShabbos? The day after Shabbos. What does that mean? A level beyond Shabbos. What does that mean? A level beyond the natural order. What's Shabbos? Shabbos is the holiest place in time. And it is holy time. There's no question. Shabbos is holy time. But it's a holy time that is limited by time to the extent that Shabbos ends. And after Shabbos, it's Yom Rishon again. And Shabbos has the ability, the language that the Rebbe uses, lafkias atzmei. It's able to extract itself from the mundane reality of time, but it can't extract any other time from that, right? So Shabbos is limited. So therefore, what's the koyach to bring about a true change in the nefesh habahamis? So as we said, the language in the Chazal uses, it's brought, it says, eina asir mater atzmai, a prisoner can't free himself. If I'm dealing with something of limitation, then I need a power beyond that limitation to bring about a real change. That doesn't mean that I can't have a certain level of cosmetic change, and whatever it is can express itself in a more positive fashion. That's true. But real change can only come from some transcendent level, penetrating and illuminating the reality so that it's now been elevated to a whole new state. So what is it that allows us to do that? Well, indeed, I mean, the Rebbe didn't tell us what the Machras HaShabbos is, but the Machras HaShabbos is, and I'm just reading in the middle of the page, it's hard, I mean, maybe 12 lines up, 15 down, something like that in that paragraph. It says, the power to bring about this change, hu mi machras, which is the last word on the line, mi machras HaShabbos dafka, right? Shalamayla, which is beyond the level of Mibechinas Mikdash V'Kaima. What's Mikdash V'Kaima? The nature of Shabbos, to be a state of Kedusha that isn't dependent on us, right? We don't create Shabbos. Yom Tov depends on us, right? Yom Tov, when Chazal discussed the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov, so Shabbos, the words they use relative to Shabbos are Mikdash V'Kaima. The Mikdash V'Kaima is that it's a state of Kedusha that's not dependent on us. Shabbos comes regardless of whether or not we know it's coming or not. Yom Tov, well, Yom Tov, now obviously now we've established the calendar, but Yom Tov only happens because we said that Tuesday is Rosh Chodesh, therefore in 2 weeks, Tuesday will be Pesach. And if we don't say Tuesday is Rosh Chodesh, then in 2 weeks, Tuesday isn't Pesach, because then Wednesday will be Rosh Chodesh, and Wednesday will be Pesach in 2 weeks. And that's why when you make the bracha in the davening on Yom Tov is Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanim. He sanctified the Jewish people and the appointed times. Why? Because the sanctification of the Yom Tovim comes from us. We decide, now again, we've established the calendar, but in Beis Din, in the old days, what would happen? Someone would come to Beis Din, to the Beis HaMikdash, and say that, Beis Din in Beis HaMikdash, and say that we saw the moon. They would establish that indeed that was Rosh Chodesh, and then therefore we now knew Pesach is in 2 weeks today. And if no one did that, then Pesach wasn't 2 weeks today. Pesach was 2 weeks tomorrow. It had to be one of those 2 days. It had to be the 20th, the 30th day or the 31st day of the month, right? So every month is either 29 days or 30 days. So it had to be that either 30th day of ER is going to be Rosh Chodesh Sivan, or the 31st day of ER will be Rosh Chodesh Sivan. But it depends on us. And therefore we say Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanim. What if Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos? What do we say? Mekadesh HaShabbos v'Yisrael v'Azmanim. We don't say Mekadesh Yisrael v'Shabbos v'Azmanim, because we're not Mekadesh Shabbos. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Mekadesh Shabbos. All right? So we say Mekadesh HaShabbos, Baruch Atah Hashem. You sanctified Shabbos, and you sanctified Yisrael, and therefore the Zmanim are sanctified. Right? Okay, so that's the halachic expression of Mikdash V'Kaima. It's an established state of Kedusha. Here the Rebbe is using it, it's Mikdash V'Kaima, it's a state of Kedusha that's Kaima, that's established and therefore limited. It is what it is, but it's no greater than that. And what can Shabbos do? Shabbos can definitely give bracha to all of the days of the week, and we know it does, right? But it can't elevate the days of the week beyond mundane time. There's still mundane time. Sunday's Sunday. Right? Shabbos doesn't elevate Sunday. The fact that we hit Shabbos does not elevate Sunday to a whole new level of time. It's still Sunday. Still Yom Rishon.
Does it have effect on the following week?
It has an effect. The bracha from Shabbos is drawn into the following week. Absolutely. But Sunday's still Sunday. It's still mundane time. You can still do malacha on Sunday. Yom Rishon is still Yom Rishon. Have to put on tefillin, have to daven shacharis, get in your car, go to the supermarket. Yom Shekulei Shabbos. There will come a time where there'll be a revelation of the power of Shabbos ad kedei kach that it affects all of time, and all of time will be Shabbos. Exactly how that will work relative to what we do and what we don't do. Obviously, we're not going to have 7 days where we can't do any malacha, because then you can't live. Right, but all the days will be elevated to the level of kedusha of Shabbos. That's Immerse Mashiach. So that's Machras HaShabbos. Machras HaShabbos is a level beyond Shabbos that can change mundane reality. Not simply give it bracha, but change it. Because what are we trying to do? We're trying to change the Nefesh HaBahamis. So now, what is that Machras HaShabbos? So the Rebbe explains. I mean, where do we get that koyach? And how do we tap into it? So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines up from the bottom of the page is where we just finished reading. Dafka shelamayla mimchinas mikdash v'kaima lamayla miseder ishtalshus, beyond the natural order. Shezeu koyach al habirur. That this is the power to bring about the birur. Now, just one thing about this birur, because we should have talked about this earlier, but we didn't. Okay, so we can do it now. Now we're going to see where the koyach comes from. But when we discussed the Rambam, Tosfos, Rabbeinu Yerucham, and we discussed the ideas of rectifying the days, rectifying the weeks. So what was the week? The week was the subconscious midah itself. All right? And that, Rabbeinu Yerucham said, we don't have the power to do today. So that's why there's only a mitzvah to count days, not weeks. Mitzvah d'oraisa. So mitzvah d'rabbanan to count weeks, but there's only a mitzvah d'oraisa to count days. Because what's the days? The days is how the midah expresses itself in action, which we saw. Chesed shebechesed is I love someone who loves Hashem. Okay, so why? Because of my love of Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so do I have control over that midah? Much less. Right? Can I act in such a way that I show love to someone who loves the Kadosh Baruch Hu, even if I might not actually love him? But can I act in such a way as if I do? Yes. That I have control over. I mean, Tanya, right? Not speech and action. You have control over conscious behavior. Okay, so the Rabbeinu Yerucham said that the ikar of Sfiras Emet today is controlling our action. Now, when we say action, we mean thought, speech, and action, because those are all 3 aspects of conscious you and me. Okay, so I have control over conscious me. I do not have such control over subconscious me. In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, they did have a greater connection to their subconscious reality and were able to elevate that also. So therefore, they had a mitzvah d'oraisa to count weeks and days. That's what Rabbeinu Yerucham said. Okay. Tosfos said that even action, it's only within the Rabbanan. So we don't have complete control over that. Rambam said we have control over both. Okay, but the Chiddush in the Maimon was to teach us that there's basically 3 different levels of the birur of Sfiras Emet. There's the birur of the Meichim. which is what? To get my intellect, and how do I change my intellect? To get my intellect to ultimately involve itself in elokus as opposed to in other things. My intellect should be involved in elokus and interested in elokus. Okay, so that's the Bira Meichin. That's one day. Then there's the 49-day process of Bira Meichin, Bira Mides, and that is two different levels. So there are people, your average person is able to do the Bira of Mides on the level of Mides Shiba Mides, days. We have control over our thought, speech, and action. There are people who go beyond that and they have control over their subconscious reality. We call them tzaddikim. Right? Now, Benoni is someone whose subconscious is whatever it is, but they never allow the negative expression of their subconscious to express itself in their conscious behavior. Thought, speech, and action. Okay, that's called the Benoni. So that's where most of us are, that's the level most of us are aspiring to. Tzaddik is someone whose subconscious reality has been changed, elevated, illuminated. Okay, so there are people who are shy to that level of Bira. Bira Meichin, that's probably one in every generation who's completely rectified. Okay, so there are those three different levels. So whatever level we're on, meaning whatever level of Sfira Sa'emer we're actually involved in, so then what is it that allows us to do that? Machras HaShabbos, a level beyond. Okay, so what is that level beyond? Because every one of us have a different Bira. Now the Bira of most of us is thought, speech, and action. Just like at Yetzias Mitzrayim, Hayagilu Yisirusa Delayla Mitzad Atzma. I've seen this many times. There was a revelation from above, Mitzad Atzma. In other words, it came from itself. It was not a response to our avodah. The Eibishter revealed himself because he wanted to reveal himself to us, not because we did anything that prompted that desire to respond in kind and be revealed to us. Right? Sometimes we ask the Eibishter to respond in kind. It's a beautiful, what do we say? Does anybody have a siddur? There's just a beautiful line that we say every day in Simcha. It's just such a beautiful line. I'm going to say it to you so you can think about it this morning when you daven, when you say it. Thank you. So this line is such an amazing line. Right at the beginning of Sukkot Zimmer in Hoidu. So at the end of Hoidu, what do we say? So we say, Hoshia Samechu Varech is Nachla Secha. Which itself is interesting, the difference between Am and Nachla. Am is something separate, Nachla is something essentially connected. Am is a level of connection that is not essential, meaning I choose that connection. Right? Whereas Nachla is the connection of a parent to a child. Am Mecha is a connection of a spouse to a spouse. Right? That's, so to speak, unnatural. They don't have any natural connection. They chose to connect. Right? Nachla, parent is a parent. Urei Menasem Adailam. Okay. Nafshenu Hiksa Lavaya. We've waited for you. This is an amazing line. Yichastecha Hashem Aleinu. Your chesed should be upon us, ka'asher yichalnu lach, like we have been waiting and wanting you. Meaning commensurate to our desire for you to be revealed, you should be revealed. We've been waiting for you so long. We're so desirous of you revealing yourself to us. So we say to the Eibishter, Yichastecha Hashem Aleinu, but we're not at instant, it's chesed, which usually is Yisrus Delayla. Baruch revealing himself to us, not dafka as a result of what we did. No, but we're asking Adarabah, that incredibly powerful revelation should be commensurate to our desire to see you. Meaning our desire is so powerful that your revelation should be equally powerful. It's an amazing line. Kasher yichanu lach, like we've waited for you, like we desire you. Right? Thank you. That's something you never give up. You never give up that hope, that connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. As long as we're in Gullus, there's an amazing story. But I don't remember the beginning of it. I have to find out the beginning of it. I've heard it, and then someone just reminded me of the story, but they also didn't know the details. But Rabbi Shway, all of a sudden, Rabbi Shway was the head of the Beis Din in Crown Heights until he passed away a few years ago. Very, very special person. He grew up in Europe and went through the war as a child. At some point, his mother sent him somewhere. He was a little boy. And she said, I'm coming after you, but you go first. Now, I don't remember the details, whether she actually thought she was going to make it or not make it, etc. But so he was a little boy. He went to the train station in the new place where he was every day, waiting for the train for his mother to get off. This little kid. And I think it took 21 days. I think on the 21st day she got off the train. He went every day and waited for the train. And he would wait for everybody to get off the train. His mother didn't get off the train. He went back to wherever he was and came back the next day. But I think on the 21st day, his mother did come on the train at some point. Right? So he used to tell that story. So the Abishter said, I'm coming. He's going to come. It's just which train. It's an amazing story. I have to find out the details of it. It's really... But he went every single day. So that's Kasher Yechanulach. We wait every single day. We say, Ad Masai, every single day. So, but Isarusa de La'ela Mitzaratzma is not that. It's the opposite of that. It's not a result of our desire to see him. It's a result of his desire to be revealed to us. And that's Pesach. We've talked about that countless times. That's what Pesach's all about. The initiation of the relationship comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. L'mayla miseder ishtalshlus, a level that's completely beyond the natural order. The revelation was not simply seeing a Kadosh Baruch Hu within nature. It was a complete, to a great extent, it was an obliteration of nature. It was obvious that there was something beyond natural happening. Sometimes it's not obvious, sometimes it is. Ukemaimer Bal Haggadah, like the Bal Haggadah says, meaning the author of the Haggadah, whoever that is. So there's never a name, it's always the Bal Haggadah. Now we know that much of the Haggadah is Mishnayos and Gemaras and Psachim, but who put it all together? We don't know. Kamaimer Bal Haggadah, Ani v'loi malach, I'm coming, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, and not a malach, not an angel, Ani v'loi saraf, another type of heavenly creature, Ani v'loi shaliach, me and no other, and no messenger. Shagilui hayami b'chinas atzmusu mahusein so baruch Hu. The gilui was the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we said this earlier. I said that one of the characteristics of Sir Seimer is that it's sandwiched in between, so to speak, the gilui atzmus of Pesach and the gilui atzmus of Shavuos. How do we know Shavuos is gilui atzmus? So the Rebbe explained the meaning of the word Anochi. Ana nafshi kosvis yavis. I myself am written into it and given in it. And the Torah is the Eibishter himself. So before Sfir Seimer, there's this incredible revelation. Shagilu ayim b'chinas atzmus u'mahu seis and baruch Hashem mitzad hashikua shalehem. The Rebbe says an amazing thing here. As a result of shikua means they were sunk. Verzunken geworden. They were sunk in. A sheka and a teka is a plug. The place where you put the plug and the plug that you put into that place, right? We call them both a plug, right? Here, there's a plug over there. Yeah, then you take the plug and you put it in the plug. So the sheka is where it goes, right? Because it's sunk in. As a result of their being verzunken geworden in the 49 gates of Tuma, look what the Rabbi says here. It's absolutely astounding. Hine. Im haya hagilui mi'eze bechina shehi. if the Gilui were a Gilui of light of any level, Gam b'dargas hayesa geveyos, even the highest level of godly light, meaning something, let's talk about after we read. Hine, loy zu bilvad, not only, shaloy hayagayalesa, not only would it not have redeemed them, ela adarab, the opposite is true. Meaning, what's the opposite? The Rebbe doesn't spell it out, but what's the opposite? Meaning it would have pushed them even lower into Klippa. The Rebbe just said an amazing thing. There could be a certain revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that by virtue of the fact that a person is so unwell spiritually, they will interpret that in completely negative and in a completely negative and unhealthy way, even though it's a revelation of Elokus.
But like draw a comparison, when you're going into the bathroom at night and the light's on, you're suffering and you're
It hurts. It hurts at first until your pupils do their tzimtzum and then to listen tzimtzum, right? The light, this is such an amazing thing. A person who's unhealthy could experience godly reality and he'll turn it into absolute shtus and klipa. The only level of Elokus that could save the Yidden in Mitzrayim was a level that was such a powerful, unadulterated expression of Elokus, etzem. Etzem, which can't possibly, what's Or? Or is a state of Gilui. So any state of revealed reality is going to be understood within the context of that which it's revealed to. So I could take this revelation and turn it into idiocy. And if I'm in a terrible state, that's what I might do. So a person could hear an idea in Torah, and if they're in an unhealthy, now the idea is obviously healthy. Why? It's Torah. It's truth. But they could take that idea and turn it into something that would produce in them unbelievably negative and unhealthy behavior. Why? Because they're unhealthy. And so they're internalizing this in a completely unhealthy way. What about if this thing has, what's the difference between Or and Atzmus? I mean, it's a long discussion, but quickly. Why is it that relative to Atzmus, this won't happen? Atzmus has no geder. It has no description. All it is absolute godliness. So I can't describe it or relate to it in any way other than what it is, because it has no geder. It has no specific reality. Whereas any state of Gilui, as lofty as it is, has a certain. I mean, the word in English is the word in Hebrew is geder. Geder. What's a geder? A defined reality. This is what it is, and it's not something else. That can't be said about Atzmus. So I can't misinterpret Atzmus because it doesn't. It's beyond interpretation. It's just, it is what it is, and it can't possibly be misconstrued as anything else. Whereas Gilui, the highest level of godly revelation, if I'm not healthy, then that kli, so to speak, when it relates to that light, will turn the light into something unhealthy. Which is just an amazing idea. Because there's no question that sometimes unhealthy people they encounter Torah, and they turn it into something that doesn't help them. It just makes them more unhealthy. You think Torah would help them? It doesn't help them because they're not healthy. And so they're interpreting it in a completely unhealthy way relative to their own state of lack of health. Okay. I mean, I guess, maybe a muscle, or there's some medicines, so to speak, that are, what do they call it? Counterindicative? Medicine that given to certain people will actually kill them as opposed to help them, right? The same, if you give me that medicine, it'll help me, but if you give it to someone else because they have a certain condition that helps. What's it called? I don't know. It's written on the box of medicine.
Contraindications.
Contraindications, right? So that if you suffer from, don't take this medicine. Why? It's going to kill you. This medicine will kill you if you have that particular problem.
Right.
Wait a minute, this medicine is to help people. Yeah, of course it's to help people. It does help people, but only certain people. Meaning, and usually healthy people. But if you have if you have heart disease, so this medicine will kill you. Well, don't take this medicine then. Oh, well, that's interesting. Isn't this medicine supposed to make me feel better? Well, it will if you're healthy. Right? What does that mean? Isn't medicine for sick people? Well, they're sick and they're sick. Okay. That's my father always used to say when he'd come home from a day of medicine and we'd say to him, I didn't go to school today, I was sick. And he'd always say the same line, you're not sick, you have a cold. You want to see sick? Come with me to the hospital, I'll show you sick. You're not sick, you just have a cold. That's not sick. Which is true. You have a cold, even the flu. Okay, the flu can be dangerous, but I mean, stay in bed a couple of days, drink some fluid, and you'll be okay. Right? You're really sick? It's no joke. My wife had a 52-year-old guy in the clinic there on Yom Ha'atzmaut. 52-year-old guy came in. The first person that saw him said, "This guy does not look good. He's not waiting in line." They took him into triage, and before they got him to the ECG, he collapsed. Major heart attack. Took him into the resuscitation room, got a pulse back, but he didn't wake up, which is not good, right? You know that, right? If they wake up, so I don't care if he doesn't wake up. There is a pulse. So they got him into the intensive care ambulance off to Shared Tzedek. And I asked my wife yesterday, any news on the guy? So they got him back, but then he went, I don't know if she used the word, I don't know what it was, but he had another massive heart attack. So he's now, they sedated him and he's, they've got him hooked up to machines and stuff, which is not good. Hopefully he can come out of it. He's 52 years old. Wow. Never had a heart attack before. It's his first heart event. He was there, his daughter brought him, and that's what she said. 52 years old. So certain things are not going to help that person, right? Because he's not well. Okay, so if I'm not well spiritually, the same thing. Something which generally would be good for me won't help me. It'll hurt me. Oh, okay, so that's really an amazing thing. What will help? Etzem. The only thing that'll help, the Rebbe says, is etzem. I can take revelation of Elokus and turn it into shtus. And you see it all the time. Right? People hear an idea in Torah and they'll say something to you. How did you hear that in those words? They didn't say that at all. Said exactly the opposite. But they'll just misconstrue it because they're not looking at the world in a healthy way. So that those words, Ella Adarabba, those are really very powerful words. And you can, the quote is from the Arizal. If it weren't Atzmus, now again, what's the advantage of Atzmus? It has no geder, meaning it can't be misconstrued because it isn't anything specific. It's absolute being. And that, I can't misconstrue it as something that it isn't. Whereas a level of godly light, since it does have a particular gather, a particular definition as to what it is and what it isn't, I could theoretically misunderstand this revelation and turn it into something negative. Lochein Haya, there was a guy, I remember when I was in Yeshiva, there was a guy in another Yeshiva in town who, Bal Tshuva, couldn't get out of bed on Shabbos. He was afraid of doing an Aveira. He spent all Shabbos in bed. Wow. It's a rather unhealthy response to Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
Now, I understand there's all sorts of things that could go wrong on Shabbos. I get that. That's a very unhealthy relationship with an incredibly powerful revelation of God called Shabbos. So that's interesting in terms of, I didn't even think of it in terms of our mimer. So what do you need? You need Mimakros of Shabbos, because it might be Shabbos, won't help. You'll just turn it into idiocy, so you won't get out of bed. When you're not getting bad. Shabbos is this incredible time where you can connect to God by virtue of all the holy things that you do. Yeah, I know, but there's all these terrible things that I might do that I'm not supposed to do, and that'll be horrible, and it'll do. That's Shabbos? Well, yeah, if you're not well, that's Shabbos. So this guy was evidently not so well. The lochen, hayagilui me'atzmusu mahusein sav baruch hu, she'ein loy shayches legamble seder ishtash, it has no relevance to the natural order, meaning basically what we were saying, it can't be misconstrued within the context of natural reality because it's so far beyond that. And again, the language in Chassidus is ein loy geder. There's no way of defining it, so I can't misdefine it because it's beyond definition. Shezeu pasach havaya. Hashem passed over. Why do we call it Passover? Because of the word Pesach. Right? What does Pesach mean? The Eibishter jumped over. Pesach loshen v'daleg, daleg lidaleg, to skip. What did he skip over? Our houses. But what does that also mean? In terms of the revelation of Elokus, it wasn't an orderly downward emanation of light. The light skipped levels of reality such that the most powerful light was immediately revealed down here. Not as it comes down through tzimtzum, etc. It's being processed so that I can see it. No. It's beyond light, actually. L'mayla miseder ishtash is beyond the natural order. Vagilu yazed dafka, and this revelation specifically, haya kayach al sfir seimer. What gives you and I the kayach of sfir seimer? Pesach. Since Pesach is the revelation of this unbelievably powerful level of Elokus, so I can use that not so much that inspiration, that existential reality, that revelation gives us the kayach to bring about real change in ourselves. Without Pesach, I wouldn't be able to do it. But Pesach opens us up to a whole new state of reality. And every year that happens. I have to be open to it, I have to think about it, I have to relate to it. Pesach also, a person could decide, there's too many, I'm just not going to move on Pesach. I'm not going to eat any food, because who knows, there might be chametz in it, so I can't eat anything. No. Eat. Pesach, we eat better than any other time of the week. It's just all healthy, because we don't use, in Babish, we don't use anything processed, so everything's healthy food. It has a little too much oil, but it's unbelievable. It's all healthy stuff. The carrot salad. What's the carrot salad? What's on the carrot salad is freshly squeezed orange juice. So what else can you put on the carrot? Right? There's no spices. There's no this. It's just good stuff. Right? A lot of potatoes. Yes, you have to be careful with those potatoes. Those nightshades will make your muscles hurt. It comes from Pesach. The kamechein hu gam kishen nitnu mitzvahs sfir seimer. When Sfir Seimer was given al kol azmanim kulam, for all times, meaning every year, not just that 1 year, every year. What does Pesach give us every single year? Hine hakayach al zeh sheyeh kol hamemtes yom brurim zchuchim usapurim. Pesach gives us living through Pesach properly and connecting to the energy of Pesach in a proper way. Gives you and I the ability to bring about real change in ourselves, because Pesach gives us that ability to connect to a level mimachras Shabbos. That's why Pesach happens before Sfir Seimer every year. We can illuminate, now take that energy and illuminate the Memtes days, make them brurim, rectified, zchuchim, purified, sapurim, illuminated. Where's that come from? Now, if you think about what the Rebbe said earlier in the Maimer, where's that going to come from? What was affected by Pesach, by the revelation of Pesach? The Rebbe told us this. What part of me was very powerfully affected by that whole event? My Nefesh Elokis. My Nefesh Elokis was affected by it. My Nefesh Bahamis wasn't. My Nefesh Bahamis wasn't affected because it was an external event, and the effect on Nefesh Bahamis has to come from below. Okay, I know that. That's what we learned. Mashcheni acharecha narutza. Heavy on right? Mashcheni pulled me. Why singular? Nefesh Elokis. Only the Nefesh Elokis was affected. Therefore, but what? But the Nefesh Elokis was affected. So now what? Now I have this incredibly empowered Nefesh Elokis that can illuminate and bring about serious change in the Nefesh Bahamis. That's the Machras HaShabbos. I have a Nefesh Elokis. I have a piece of me that's absolute godliness. I just have to tap into that piece of me in order to bring about a change in that part of me that's conscious me. And this isn't just discipline. When I discipline a dog, so the dog can't not be a dog. He can just be a well-behaved dog or a not so well-behaved dog, but he can't transcend dogginess. You and I can transcend natural Nefesh Bahamis. Why? Because we have a Nefesh Elokis. And that Nefesh Elokis is empowered on Pesach to affect the Nefesh Bahamis in a very, very, very real way. So first of all, I have to do the Aveda of Pesach, but then I also have to bring that into everyday conscious reality, which is affecting my Nefesh Bahamis. And then my Nefesh Bahamis changes. And it's real change. Now, we might only today have the ability to affect how the Nefesh Bahamis acts, as opposed to its essential character. Okay, that itself is amazing. So I should use the Koyach HaPesach to bring about changes in how I act. Now, there has to be work from below. The work from below is connecting to certain positive behavior patterns. But this time of year, I'll have an extra wind at my back to bring that into reality because of Pesach, Sfiras Eimer. That's what it's all about. Similar to Elul. Elul is also a time when we have the wind at our back. Humi machras Shabbos shelamayla miserish dash legamre. Shagilu yazed dafka. The revelation of Pesach, meaning the fact that the Nefesh Elokis is aroused and woken up in a very, very powerful way on Pesach. That's what gives kayach to the beer of Sfiras Eimer. And by virtue of this, we come to the king will bring me into his chamber. Shuinyan Matan Torah. And this is Matan Torah, Gilui Datzmus Umahusay and Baruch, which is the Gilui from above, another great Gilui from above. So the simple pshat in Havieni Amelech Hadar of why it's singular is because it's a Gilui from above, and the Gilui from above is going to be singular, whereas the Gilui from below is going to be plural because it's going to be Nefesh Bahamis and Nefesh Elokis. That's the simple pshat, but the Rebbe doesn't get into it in any way other than that. So we're back to something like Mashcheni. Mashcheni was, there's a revelation from above. Heviani is revelation from above. Okay. Say that, but shouldn't this be affecting the Nefesh Bahamis? So Adarabah, yes, once I've gone through the 49 days, isn't my Nefesh Bahamis now a kli for this? Could be. That's the pshat. And that's why it's singular, because now the Nefesh Bahamis and Nefesh Elokis are on the same page. But they're on the page of the Nefesh Elokis. When it says we will run, it's that the Nefesh Elokis is now being affected by the Nefesh Bahamis by virtue of the passion of the Nefesh Bahamis affecting the Nefesh Elokis and getting the Nefesh Elokis to run. Okay, but the Nefesh Elokis is affecting the Nefesh Bahamis by virtue of the Mimachras HaShabbos aspect of it, the godly aspect of it. That it's not just the Nefesh Bahamis disciplining itself and training itself. It's beyond that. So that's ultimately the answer to the question. Why does it say Mimachras HaShabbos? Because the koyach for Sfiras Eimer comes Mimachras HaShabbos. Comes from a level beyond these darshas. What's that level? Simply the Gilui of Pesach. Where does that take me to? To the Gilui of Matan Torah. I can bridge the gap through the Avodah of Sfiras Eimer. But I can't do the Avodah if not for Mimachras HaShabbos. It's a very interesting question, B'chlal. Two different people regarding Sfiras Eimer. Someone has a bar mitzvah in the middle of Sfiras Eimer, and someone who's misgayer in the middle of Sfiras Eimer. Someone who becomes Jewish in the middle of Sfiras Eimer. So does he count Eimer with a bracha? He didn't count the first 15 days. Why? He wasn't Jewish. He didn't count the 15 days. Why not? He was 12 and a half. He wasn't 13. Oh. So I don't know what we say about a ger tzedek. I'm not sure. But about a bar mitzvah boy, I remember Dafka, because I remember being at a bar mitzvah with a friend's son. And it was many years ago. He's now married with a bunch of kids, the kid. And we were about to daven Marav, and he was going to daven Marav from the Amud, the bar mitzvah boy, and in the hall. We were in the hall, and he was going to daven Marav. And then we thought, well, hold on a second. Does he say a bracha for Sfiras? Now, of course, he said a bracha yesterday, but that was chinuch. That wasn't Sfiras Eimer. That wasn't the mitzvah of Sfiras Eimer per se. That was the mitzvah of education. Of course, you have a kid make a bracha. He's not chayiv the bracha. You're chayiv to teach him to make the bracha. Oh. So no one there knew the answer. We were stumped. There wasn't like a real rabbi there, some who paskins halacha, and it's going to have been asked this question once before. None of us had ever encountered this before. So we called up Rav Ashkenazi, all of a sudden, the father. His son is now the Rav in Kfar Chabad. So we called up Rav Ashkenazi before Marav. We delayed Marav and said, what do we do? So he said he makes a bracha. Which is very interesting. Now I wonder what about a Ger Tzedek? Since Sfiras Eimer is a process that we know, right? If I miss a day, so then I can't make a bracha anymore, because it has to be Sheva Shvuos Tamimais, has to be full. I have to count to 49. If I only counted 48, so I didn't do the mitzvah, the full mitzvah. There's a question as to whether or not the mitzvah is, there's 49 different mitzvahs, only one big mitzvah. Okay. Suffolk, because of that, so if someone missed a full day, so they don't make a bracha from that. They keep counting, but they don't make a bracha. They'll listen to someone else's bracha. That's very embarrassing for someone who's at the Amud. Right. All of a sudden they realize, wait, why did I go up from Marav? I can't say the bracha. Okay, so, usually the way to get around it is you have some big Rav say it, and it's a big covered for the Rav or something. But if someone who has a chiyuv to daven, for whatever reason, it's hard for him to miss Sfiras because he's going to be in a minyan every single day. But Shabbos he could miss. He's not davening from the Amud. Right. And for whatever reason, he had a conversation with someone during Sfiras Eimer, or they brought in Shabbos early, and so he had to count Sfira later, and he forgot to count Sfira, whatever. So then this poor guy, for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, has to daven Marv from the Amud every single day, but he can't say the bracha. It's really embarrassing, but okay, it happens. Okay, so now I was going to connect this to Lag BaOmer. So we'll just see the beginning of this, and we'll pick it up on Sunday. V'zeu gam kein hashaychus to Lag BaOmer laveda d'Sfiras Eimer. So after all, this is a Lag BaOmer Maimer. So what's the connection of Lag BaOmer to Sfiras Eimer? I mean, I understand it's 33rd day of the year, but that I can't. But Lag BaOmer is more than that. Lag BaOmer is obviously a very, very special day, and the specialness of the day is that it's the yortzeit of the Rashbi. So how is the Rashbi connected to Lag BaOmer? Dafka. Dine. Lag BaOmer hu b'sfiras hoid shebahoid. Lag BaOmer is hoid shebahoid. Okay, so let's figure out what hoid is and what hoid shebahoid is, and then we'll have some understanding of what Lag BaOmer is all about. Now, interesting enough, we mentioned this in the Farbrengen the other night. Now, obviously, there's only one way to count, because we count that way. You start from Chesed Sheba Chesed, you go down to Malchus Sheba Malchus. Okay, and if you do it that way, so then Lag BaOmer is Hoid Sheba Hoid. That's how we do it. Now, what if you were to do it from the other way? That you start from Malchus Sheba Malchus and you work up to Chesed Sheba Chesed. Now we know why we do it the way we do it, because the ultimate expression of every midah is the malchus of it, which is the thought, speech, and action of it. Okay, but why not say I'm elevating myself from malchus sheba malchus up to chesed sheba chesed? That's also true. Okay, so now if you count that way, interestingly enough, really is interesting. So then Lag BaOmer is Tiferes Sheba Tiferes, which is what Beis Iyar is, the Reb Marash's day. And Beis Iyar, the Reb Marash's day, is Hoid Sheba Hoid. Lag BaOmer and Beis Iyar are mirror images of each other. If you count the way we count, so then Beis Iyar is Tiferes Sheba Tiferes, and Lag BaOmer is Hoid Sheba Hoid. If you were to start from the bottom, then Lag BaOmer would be Tiferes Sheba Tiferes, which is the Reb Marash. And Beis Iyar would be Hoid Sheba Hoid. This is obviously this. I mean, that we've read about that connection a little bit in the Farbrengen. Okay, so let's just see the beginning of the Indian of Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is Hoid Sheba Hoid. The Indian of Hoid means splendor. But it also means hoda'ah. Hoda'ah means
or submission.
Thanks or exactly, both of them. Now, really, those are the same thing. Who do you say thank you to? Someone you feel bottled to. Right? Some people can't say thank you. Right? Why can't they say thank you? Because they can't admit that they were dependent on another person. They can't do it. So they just have a hard time saying thank you, which is really bizarre, but I mean, there are people like that. And that's why one of the most important things to teach your children is to say please and thank you, to the appreciation of the fact that you were dependent on another person. Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's not an admission of guilt. It's just reality. Someone did something useful for you, so thank them. Okay, so hoda'ah is, yes, submission, appreciation, right? Admitting dependence on someone else, right? And that's thanks. So it's really bittul. There's a lot of bittul in Haidah. That's why we say Meidim anachnu lach. First word out of your mouth every day is Meida ani. I'm a Meida. I'm someone who hopefully appreciates, and the word I was looking for is acknowledges the Eibishter. Meida is also acknowledgement, right? Rava was Meida to Abaya. What does that mean? Rava acknowledges that Abaya's position is more reasonable than his. Oh, okay. The inyan haidah b'chlal hu shemeida av shein amevin. The most powerful expression of haidah is not that I understand intellectually why it is that I should acknowledge this person or be bottled to this person. The ultimate expression of haidah is I'm bottled to this person even though I don't necessarily understand it. Now that doesn't mean there isn't a haidah that's based on intellect. Of course there is. And as a matter of fact, the reason we sit and learn Chassidus and contemplate things, etc., is to come to an intellectual appreciation of the fact that I should be made to the Eibishter. Okay, true, no problem. But there's a level of Hoid. Hoid itself is not intellect. Hoid is the ability to be bottled to something, which is a power of the soul. One of the tchunot, one of the characteristics of the nefesh is that it can be meida. That's Hoid. So that'll be bittul. The zeu inyan ha-hoida'ah bein shu mavin ubein she'ena mavin. Whether or not he understands the reason to be meida or not. In other words, he's going to bring a mushal. Let's just see the mushal, then we'll stop. Amna. B'spheres ha-hoid gufa yesh beis dargas. In Hoid itself, there's two different levels. There's going to be Hoid and Hoid shebahoid. Hoid shebahoid is and what are the levels? V'yuven zeh al derech dugmas chacham michacham gadol shenifla me'ein kol b'chachmasai. An incredibly wise person who's beyond everybody in his wisdom. So now, there's two different people who will relate to that chacham. Shegam chacham katan, even a chacham katan, someone who's very, very well educated and bright and intelligent and knows a lot, but even he, shebechlal yesh lo shaychus leseichel, he has a relevance to seichel. He's a person who uses his seichel to understand things, etc. But hinegam hu eina mevin chachmasa nifla shel chacham agad. He realizes that he doesn't understand the full extent of the chachma of the chacham gadol. So now, as a result of his connection to chachma, he's completely bottled to the chacham gadol. He appreciates chachma, he experiences chachma, but he also realizes that the chachma of the chacham gadol is so far beyond his that he can't even understand it. But that itself lends him to be bottled to the Chacham Gadol. He says, this person's wisdom is just beyond anything I've ever experienced. It's unbelievable. Now, why can he say that? Because he appreciates intellect. And since he appreciates intellect, he can appreciate that the intellect of this Chacham Gadol is so far beyond his that he can't even understand it. But that itself is understanding the greatness of the intellect of the Chacham Gadol. So there's that aspect of Hoid. Why am I bottled? I appreciate that he's completely and totally beyond anything I've ever experienced. in the realm in which I have a certain achiza, and I'm there, but not by him. It's just beyond belief. Okay. Hine a chacham katan, this small chacham, kevan sheyesh le shaychus l'seichel, since he has some relevance to the notion of intellect, he's an intellectual person. Hine af she'ena mevin es a seichel, even though he doesn't understand this seichel, this intellect, this idea, sheshama mi a chacham gadol, that he heard from the chacham gadol. Aval mikom hakam, nevertheless, hayhu mevin al kopanim, he does understand intellectually, shu inyan sichli mufla b'yesed, that it's an absolutely astounding idea. It's so astounding that he doesn't understand it. And he's a pretty smart guy and he understands things. And he hears this, he goes, whoa, wow. I have to think about that. That's like, I don't get it. He's going to sit there and break his head to try to understand this. Tibamelo. Hine av she'ena mevin es hasechel, even though he doesn't understand the idea that he heard from the Chacham Gadol, mikol mokem hu meide shetzarich lizbat. He's meide that he has to be bottled to this person. And what is it that ultimately is causing that bittul? His own seichel. Right? But even though he doesn't understand the seichel of the Chacham Gadol. But since he doesn't understand the seichel of the Chacham Gadol, he's completely bottled because he realizes this is a seichel beyond anything I've ever experienced. This is unbelievable. The kaven shu margish, since he feels shu inyan sichli, that this is an intellectual reality. The sichli mufla b'yesh, and it's the most wondrous idea he's ever encountered. V'yesh l'shayches l'seichel, and this person is someone who appreciates an idea. But maybe, and he understands, shetzarich bottled, that he has to be bottled. Even though, interestingly enough, and this is why it's hoid and not simply intellect, af she'ena yodeya ve'ena masik. But he doesn't understand the idea. But that's what causes him to be bottled. Says, I should understand this, but I don't. It's not I don't understand it because it's nonsense. I don't understand it because it's completely beyond any intellectual expression I've ever encountered. So he's blown away. Why? Because of his chachma. He has some chachma, and he appreciates how much greater this is than his. Okay. That's the chacham katan relative to the chacham gadol. We won't see it inside, but but what about the ish pashut? There's also going to be an ish pashut who doesn't even understand the greatness of the chacham because he has no kanei midah, he has no point of reference to understand what he's saying. But he's still going to be bottled to him. Why is he bottled? Because he's bottled. Not because of his intellect. Not because he appreciates the fact that this is an intellect beyond any intellect I've ever encountered. Because he doesn't think intellectually. That isn't how he works. But he still might be bottled to this person. So we'll see where he's going to explain that. And that's going to be Hoid Shabbat. Bittul because of bittul. Not bittul because of intellect. There's Hoid, a state of bittul, but that bittul can come from different places. Or then there's Hoid Shabbat. Why is the ish pashut bottled? Because he's bottled. Interesting enough, made him the Rabbanan. Can I see your signature again, please, Doc? Well, the Rebbe is going to mention it. We'll see it on Sunday, but let's just, so we won't go into Shabbos completely confused. Right? In Medim de Rabbanan, we say something which, it's like everything else in davening. We don't necessarily notice it unless someone points it out to us. What do we say? Medim anachnu lach, and then we list all sorts of amazing things. Right? Al sha'anu medim lach. Right? We thankfully, I'm just reading English. We thankfully acknowledge that you are all of this. Now here it says, for we thankfully, okay, but really, why are we acknowledging? Because we're acknowledging. Meidim anachnu lach, al shanu meidim lach. Why are we meidim? Because we're meidim. That's Hoid Shabbat. Meidim is Hoid Shabbat. But why am I saying the Kadosh Baruch Hu is all these things? Because he is. Why am I saying that? Not because I have some deep. It doesn't say Meidim anachnu lach because I've been mizbeinin in all your greatness and I have a great appreciation of it. No. Why am I meida? Al shenachnu meidim. We're meida because we're meida. Oh, so on one hand, that's an incredibly deep place in the soul. But we're also going to see that relative to the midas, that's the lowest place in midas. The midas end with Hoyd. Yesod and Malchus are the expression of the midas. And this is what we said earlier. What's Yesod? The connection to something. What's Malchus? The thought, speech, and action. What produces the connection? The emotional reality. So that's Hoyd, Netzach, Tiferes, Gevura, and Chesed. The 5 levels of the midas themselves are Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoyd. Then that emotional reality produces connection, which is Yesod, and that produces thought, speech, and action. So Hoyd is the end of the midas per se. That's what I was going to explain to us on Sunday. Hoyd Sheba is the lowest level of the lowest level. So what's that? Basic bittul, because I'm bittul, not because of any intellectual understanding. So how is that expressed? I haven't thought about anything. I haven't done anything. There's the Rebbe says in a mimer discussing Meidani. My neshama is still in my nose. It hasn't even penetrated into the rest of my body yet. It's just come back. He says, it's still only in his nose. It hasn't entered his whole body yet. He's barely awake. He's barely alive. What does he say? Meidani. Where's that coming from? He was mizbainin. He wasn't mizbainin anything. The only thing he was mizbainin on is he doesn't want to get up. Okay, but he is, because he has to. Okay, Meidani lefanecha. The Rebbe says an amazing thing, the fact that the Jew will say that even though his neshama is still in his nose, he hasn't even woken up, he's not his state. That's what produces the end of it all. Rabbi that you're the Eibush has great faith in us. The fact that a Yid will get up and the first thing he'll say is Meidani, the Eibush has great faith in the fact that that Jew will use this day properly, so he's going to give him life. That's the Rabbi at the end of it all. That's why we separate Chemla and Rabbi Munasech. Some people say Chemla, Rabbi, Munasech, which doesn't make sense. The Rabbi isn't on the Chemla, the Rabbi is on the Munasech. The great Emunah of who? What does the Eibush have Emunah in? Us. Why? Because the first thing we'll say is Meidani. If you say, I don't know how you would explain it meaning when we say, Meidani lefnecha melech hayvadam shechazarta bi nishmasi bechemla, karma. You return my soul in dearness. Chemla is like something dear. Rabba emunasecha, great is your emuna. Not bechemla rabba, in great chemla. Then what's emunasecha doing at the end? Where does it fit? So it's chemla, comma. I think there's even a comma in the siddur to make sure that people do that. The chemla, comma, rabba emunasecha. Because you and I said Meidani, so at the end, we say that you, Eibishter, have great emunah in us, because we just said what we said. Even though we're not even awake, we're barely alive. What's the first thing we say? Meidani, not a ni Meidan, don't mention a ni yet, first Meidan. And that's how you should. There's nothing, there's no intellect, there's no emotions, there's nothing. Just the basic ability to be made, which is the beginning, the lowest level of Aveda, the beginning of Aveda. Kabbalah, so the Eibush is the Eibush. Why? He's the Eibush. Be quiet. Why? Stop asking. Why is a crooked leg? Explain to me. What is explain to you? I have to explain it to you. If I have to explain it to you, you don't understand. Oh, that's how you brought it. Now I do have to explain it to you, but I might have to get to Hoyt Shabbat. So that's really interesting. On one hand, Hoyt Shabbat is the lowest level. On the other hand, it's incredibly deep. But it's the lowest level. What the Rebbe is going to explain for the rest of the Mimer, we'll see it next week. That Hoyt Shabbat, how can that be the Rashbi? The Rashbi is the highest level of intellectual achievement imaginable. The Rashbi is the father of Panemius the Torah. How's the Rashbi shaykh to Hoyt Shabbat? Hoyt Shabbat is the simple thing. Even the Chacham Katan isn't Hoyt Shabbat, it's just Hoyt. The Chacham Gadol. So how is the Rashbi Hoyt Shabbat?
say that, there's the middle, there's the middle of understanding the Chacham Gadol,